Okay, Kelubile and Bonello are back, and Alice. Okay. I think we'll go ahead because the video is actually more than 1 hour, but where we're starting is from 16 minutes in. Yeah, it's still more than 1.5 hours. So we'll go ahead and start. Anybody that comes will have to join us as they come in. So let's start with the video. And like I said, we'll start with the part with the ICF. And then hopefully in between where they have conversations, I'll be able to skip ahead so that I'll be able to get to the end of the video. Okay, all right. So people who are coming in, sorry, I can't wait because the video is long. So the earlier we start, the better. So let's start. That we'll have more time to talk about. Right. So like I said, this is Jörg's, Kofi, and Drea's consolidation. You can watch the beginning where Jörg talks about physical impairment. It's a bit more similar to Kofi's video and also to Drea's video. Okay, so that's why I don't want to go through that. You can do that on your own. But we're starting from the part where he starts talking about the ICF. Okay. So give a thumbs up if you can hear the recording, please.
Is the ICF? I don't know why my.
Okay, you can hear it. Okay, great.
My presentation mode, I still have to go into present. Can you see now the ICF here?
Yes, here.
Yes. So, because I think the ICF is not a definition of physical disability, but it basically captures the problem of defining it, and it captures actually also the interaction much better. I don't want to go too deep in this. The International Classification of Function, Disability and Health, known as ICF, it's basically a classification of health and health-related domains. As the functioning and disability of an individual occurs in a context always, wherever you are in the world, the ICF includes also a list of environmental factors and personal factors. Yeah. What you mean with the environmental factors or with the body functions is basically the physiological functions on the left. You see that the body structures is the anatomical parts of the body. What you see with activities and participation, and activity is nothing else that you execute a task or an action that an individual does. And this activity can, of course, be limited. So difficulties of an individual to have executing activities. Participation, that's the next box here, is hanging together with this. The participation means basically because of some reasons that can be any of them around. It can be the body function, can be the activities, can be the health condition or the environment, that you have a problem in being involved in life situations, to participate in your community's activities, and so on and so on. And the environmental factors, basically, these are the factors that are that's the physical, that's the social, that's the attitudinal environment in which the people live and conduct their lives. That's the communities you're living in, and they can either be barriers or facilitators to the personal functioning. Yeah. The ICF is not a definition, but it's a framework for describing functioning and disability in relation to, of course, it's issued by the WHO to a health condition, but it provides kind of a common language and framework for describing the level of function of a person within their unique environment or their unique cultural, economical, and so on environment, or on another level, the function of a person within their unique environment or in their standard environment they're normally living in, their level of capacity. So the ICF is basically a framework, and this is what is a hybrid thing. It's not a definition that is chiseled into stone, because as we have seen before, all of these definitions didn't work. But it's a framework. It's kind of a hybrid framework that shifts the conceptual emphasis a little bit away from negative connotations such as disability and places the focus actually on the positive abilities of a person's and rather at the systemic level, at the in the environment the person is living in. The personal factors is being the gender and so on, and the environment factors being the surrounding. So I think the ICF is much better, can be much better used to classify what physical impairment is, because the definition of physical impairment will also always be an individual one. Yeah. This is what this is why generic definitions will mostly fail if you try to do it. But you have to move in a hybrid room where you look not just only at the health condition, but also at the activities that person is doing or can do, how that person is participating in life, how the environmental factors play in, and how personal factors such as gender, religious, and so on might also play in. So so far, and this has of course consequences if you look at the classroom, at a learning environment. So first of all, my thesis is there is no blueprint definition of physical impairment. There is just not any definition that we can be happy with. There is a little bit more of a systemic thinking that you do not have physical impairment as such alone, or being only an orthopedic impairment, but this is always placed in a person, in a community, in an environment, and it is almost never limited to physical aspects only. If you look at any kind of physical impairment, like cerebral palsy that is defined as physical, you will have other issues there too. Same with multiple sclerosis. The same, even if you have a stroke, if one of your granddads or whatever had a stroke in the past, you saw that you have also mental health issues coming up after quite a while with that person. Might not be. So there's always kind of a need, if you assess a person with a physical impairment, there's always the need to do a holistic assessment, to not just look at the outside, look at the function, but to look at the entire environment of that person. Because if you want to include a person with so-called physical impairment in the school environment, you have to look at much more than just limitations in function that as a physiotherapist, or for example, you might want to focus on, but it's more. So if you do an assessment, and you need to include the environment, including the family and the community into that assessment, yeah. And there I want to show you a little example that we have done in the past. We call it MAPEO, and my colleagues from Central America, they might know what it is. I see Olmedo here. I see also somebody else from Central America, because we have used that MAPEO not only with our community-based rehabilitation workers, but very often also in school inclusion, when we brought children to school actually to go through that MAPEO process at school with a teacher. So what does it actually mean? The MAPEO is a very, very simple tool I will show you that assesses and prioritizes the needs of a person with disability. And let's go with a physical impairment at different levels. Here you see a picture from El Salvador. That's, I think, 15 years old. You see a teacher there You see a rehab worker, you see the parents sitting here, and some neighbors. Sometimes we had the priest in, sometimes we had somebody from the Parent-Teacher Association in that meetings. But to really address the holistic need of a person with a physical impairment, you need a little bit more background than a clinical assessment would give you. Yeah, clinical assessment is being done anyhow if you are lucky enough to get your child to a mainstream school. So you might be lucky enough that a physical rehabilitation therapist assesses the child, but what I want to say is you need more of that. So here at the Mapeo, the teachers, the parents, and members of the community came together. And you see here, it had just some very few big pages that we hang up on the wall and that we discussed with this whole group actually. Sometimes the children could take part in the discussion and sometimes they could not because their impairment did not allow them to take part, especially if you talk about cerebral palsy. You might have communication problems or you might have intellectual impairment interwoven with it. So some of it is being answered by the parents, some of it is being answered by the child itself. But the first step is always in that Mapeo is basically the history and the current status. You see here Florcita, that's a girl, she's 19 years old. So what was Historia, you see on the left side, basically very bluntly brought together from the people that are present. Why is she actually here? So the mother had, for example, some problem in the pregnancy. She was carried just for 5 months. She was born prematurely and so on. You see a very simple history on the left page that everybody understands. It's on the wall. Everybody can contribute. Maybe some neighbors know more. You know, everybody participates in the patient history. The medidas mean basically what has been done. So maybe Florcita was at the hospital for a certain while. Maybe she had a surgery. So you have on one page basically the history and the current status of the person that you want to bring to school. Second one is you see here a cake, time spent. So with whom does Florcita or any other person spend the time? You see abuela, it's the grandmother, it's the big piece of the cake. It's the madre, is a smaller piece of the cake. So in that case, the mother was working and the grandmother took care of the child. You have the tio here, it's the uncle. So you see with one view, the entire group sees actually who is the prime person to deal with the child actually, who is the main referral person for the child that is going to visit school. And you see here, it's the grandmother and to a lesser extent, other women. Then we had a third page.
Right, so you can watch the rest of this section where Jörg gives, practical examples from case studies and where he has worked and things like that, okay? You can take your time and watch through that. Let's go to Dureya and Kofi's narration, okay? Yeah, let's start with Dureya's.
Yeah. There we go. That's it. Thanks.
Mine is taking a while as well.
No problem.
Yes.
Chantal said, yes, I was in your position, I think 2019. So I know what it's like. So I just wish you all the best and hopefully we can get through it together. And thanks for having me today. So I am just explaining from my point of view, being a disabled student all my life, from school experiences to university experiences, and also having the perspective now, actually learning the education side behind disability as well, not just it being a personal experience, being disabled myself. So my presentation is just basically about students with mobility impairments, because that's what I have. I'll explain a bit more later. But the angle of mobility impairments and barriers to learning experienced by learners with physical impairments, and also having a spotlight on creative accommodations and holistic social inclusion as well. So Chantal can go next, please. Thank you. Okay, so like I said, a little bit about me. I am disabled. I have been born with a genetic condition, so I've had it all my life. It wasn't from a injury or anything. So my condition is a very long word that you see on the screen, but basically it just means that I have a skeletal disorder that results in dwarfing. So I'm quite tiny, although I'm 27, but it also results in some mobility impairments. So I use crutches and wheelchair to get around places. So I've had 8 surgeries on my knees, but that's where it stops. My mind is all there. I've just had some surgery on my knees just to lengthen and straighten my knees, because I've had mobility issues in the beginning. Yeah. So we can go next, please. So with my educational journey, it's different to a lot of disabled people, and I'm so thankful in a way that I've had my educational journey that I've had, because I attended a mainstream school, even though I was physically disabled, even though I could have benefited from a lot of accommodations that I wasn't given. But being in a mainstream school, I learned so much about adapting to one's environment. So not only that, but it was a private school. So when it's a private school and an Islamic school at that, it's, it doesn't really conform to the mainstream accommodations and inclusivity, where I was practically the only disabled person then and probably now still that the school has ever experienced. So that was very unique. It was like being an alien in this little world that nobody, knew of another person like me. And so did I. I felt I was just normal. I never knew anybody else who was disabled. So I've done my schooling there, and then I went to UCT, which was, as you can imagine, a culture shock, because I realized that there are other people who are disabled, and there can actually be a space where you can be accommodated for. And accommodations that came from that were, where I was granted an electric wheelchair on my first day while enrolling in my orientation. I met with the disability unit, and I was so shocked that there's actually such a unit such as that. Like, there's a team who are dedicated to making the environment inclusive and dedicated to including you and accommodating for your needs, which was the complete polar opposite to my experience all my life. Thanks, Sue. It's a complete different experience to schooling, because in school I was making my own way, but in university it made me feel that actually, I'm not the problem. When you learn about the medical model and the social model in school and all my life, you think about the medical model, you are the problem, you have to change, you have to adapt. But then in UCT, even with my bachelor's, not even learning disability studies before that journey of my life, you actually find that the society has a part in making it inclusive for all. And you actually have a right, in a sense, that was so taboo to think about in the beginning, because you are essentially taught that you are the problem in the beginning. So it was quite refreshing coming to UCT, being involved in the disability unit, being involved with other disabled peers, and then also coming to disability studies, which was a whole other world, which I really appreciated as well. So yes, like Chantal said, I am a master's student in disability studies. I am researching the experiences and also the factors that include disabled students at UCT. And it's actually a sub-study of a MasterCard Foundation research study that I'm a part of with Professor Teresa Lorenzo. I'm sure you know her. I'm sure you know Sumaya Gabriels and everyone else. So we are the team, the South African team for that international study, which is exploring the experiences of disabled students in Africa. So we work with Ethiopia, Ghana, and Canada as well. Well, they're heading the study, so we're the 3 African sites. So it's really interesting, and that in itself opened up my eyes to a whole other world, you know, hearing the experiences of other students, how they struggled in mainstream school, and also learning about those who went to special needs school. Okay, Chantal, we can go to the next one, please. So the barriers to learning, like I said, because I grew up in a mainstream school all my life, I was the only disabled student. It was extremely challenging because I had these needs. I walked on crutches because I didn't want to use my wheelchair. I was stubborn to be normal as well and to get around quicker and to not be the burden, because when I started having my surgeries at about grade 1, 2, and 3, then the school told my parents that I should be enrolled in ERAS or other special needs school rather. They can't accommodate for me, even though I just needed a class on the lower level or something as simple. But I think as you learn in disability studies, disability shocks a lot of people and scares a lot of people, and they tend to feel the world is crumbling and they rather don't want to handle it instead of just thinking about simple accommodations that are needed. So yeah, so we went all over to special schools trying to get an enrollment for me because my school kind of pushed me there. And then they did some assessments on me and they said, you know what, this child is just going to wither away here. She doesn't need that many accommodations. Your school must just take her back. So we fought to stay at the school and I made my own accommodations. My mother made my own accommodations, from making my uniform herself to, you know, fighting to get a lower level classroom. As simple as it may sound, it was a battle. And yeah, just other crazy accommodations that were simple, but was a battle at the time. If we could go to the next slide. So with my focus in my master's study and learning in the PG course that is so wonderful, I've experienced that with doing a lot of research in disability studies, a lot of research centers around the physical accommodations, the physical facilitations that are needed, or even the emotional, which is great, but that's not completely holistic. I found that it's not a completely holistic viewpoint of inclusion. So many times when UCT or schools say we are inclusive, that means they have a ramp or they slap a ramp here and there, or they have some braille here and there. But it's not holistic. To be holistically inclusive means to have social inclusion as well. So especially interviewing all the participants that I'm interviewing for my study, the one drive that all of them have across the board is that they are not socially included, whether it be in social clubs, societies, protests, PE classes, events, sports clubs. It's just not inclusive, and it's not enough for a student to come and do their work and go home, but it is their right to be socially included in clubs. And one participant said, with such tears in her eyes, it was so sad, she said, when I asked, have you been joining any social societies or extramural activities at school? And then she just said no, because I don't even want to go there, because you just know how inaccessible or exclusive it is. So yeah, it's a huge focus that I have and a huge thing that I advocate for. So I just wanted to also bring that into the presentation today. So we can go next, please. So like I said, growing up in an environment that's not built for me at school, you have to make your own accommodations. And in the disability studies course, especially the DSE course, which I loved so much, we had, I'm not sure if you had the principal of Pinelands Primary, I think. I keep forgetting her name, but
Norton.
Yes, Miss Norton. So she had us do an activity about creative accommodations, and that has been my whole life, but I never thought it's as significant as when she brought it up, when I thought nobody does it. And it's such a simple, amazing thing, because when I was almost excluded from my school, if they just knew about creative accommodations, when I said previously that people get scared of accommodating a disabled person, a lot of the times people think it's, oh, we need money. Where are we going to get the funds? They just think it's a financial, monetary thing. But with creative accommodations, or even just engaging with the disabled student themselves, that's sometimes all that you need to accommodate them. You will find that there's little accommodations and that everybody needs, not necessarily diagnosed disabled people, but everybody in their own way has their own accommodations that they have, whether it's your principal, whether it's your peer that's not disabled. Everyone has their accommodations. So I love to focus on creative accommodations because that's what I've been doing. So, like I said, my mother making my uniform. On the picture on the right on the top was our matric exams. So that's our grade 12 exams. And we were set up in a big hall with distance tables and chairs, like desks, so that we can, like, prevent cheating and all that. And the tables that they used were the big giant trestle tables that you get at like functions. But it's so high that I could not even see the page. The page was like here. I couldn't even see it, let alone like sit for 3 hours in an exam. So I just did a simple thing, went to the primary school, took one of their desks. Like, it's not that deep, but doesn't have to be that deep. And the accommodations can be made. And then that's also just engaging with your teachers, engaging with the staff, building that relationship. We also speak about personal facilitation in disability discourse, where, yes, you have facilitation from support of others, but there's also personal facilitation that you do, whether it's conscious or unconscious, knowing or unknowingly. So even just building relationships with your staff, with your teachers, with your professors, that's a personal facilitation, because with that relationship that you're building with them, it leads to better communication, it leads to awareness as well. So if I build a relationship with my teachers, then they become aware of me and my differences and my needs and my accommodations, and that inspires them to assist more and to want to do more and want to help. So yeah, and then, like I didn't mention in the beginning, but I'm not sure if you did it on the presentation, but between grade 8 and grade 10, grade 11, I went to a hifz school. So for Islam, sorry, I'm just leading Sue's comment. Yeah, exactly, Sue. Yeah, they become aware of your abilities and capabilities, and they would help you wherever they can with that personal facilitation. So in between grade 8 and 10, I took a course where you memorize the Quran. It's the holy book of Islam. So that you sit in a mosque and you sit all day, almost every day. Like school, you go to school, but you sit in a mosque on the floor. And you have a little table in front of you, as you can see at the bottom right picture. And everyone's sitting on these little desks on the floor, but I can't really sit on the floor. So I just had a desk made and I just used that. But it's stuff like that that could prevent a lot of people from taking on different courses or activities. But when you make something as simple accommodation, asking for a desk and breaking that ritual almost, and it's not that it's a bad thing at all, but just opening the eyes to the fact that anybody can actually join in this, and it doesn't have to be that difficult that you may think it is. And then, yeah, I've also, another personal facilitation is where I won a KFM radio station competition, and they gave money towards the school. So the school said they will use that money to make better accessibility for all. Because even though I may be graduating soon, or it won't just benefit me, but then you make your school more inclusive for anybody in the future who would like to come as well, which was very important as well. Because even though I was the first disabled person, you shouldn't want to be the last. You should, try to make it better for the future students. So, yeah, I did have a tough time, but challenging time adapting to the environment, because it was like 5 buildings span across kilometers of ground. And we had to go through those all day, every day. but it's the things you have to do to accommodate yourself and to be in that space. And luckily for me, I was able to, but we need to create an environment where you don't have to break your back to be included. So the place needs to change and be accessible, which it then did very much so, which I'm proud of. Chantal, we could go to the next. Yeah, so like I said, creative accommodations are important because accommodations does not have to be expensive or make you feel scared or scare you or make you feel ignorant to how inclusive your space can be. It just takes simple accommodations to make your place inclusive and include a whole other person and a generation. So we could just go next, please. Thank you. Another arrow, another tap, please. Yeah, okay, thanks. So case study, this is just a simple thing I've just made up just to see the differences between different physical impairment and different students' experiences and how creative accommodations can be made to include them, not necessarily monetary or not necessarily infrastructural, but just creative accommodations. So with case study one, the student is physically impaired, she has dwarfism. She finds the desk very uncomfortable because it's not really tailored to her. Like I said, I couldn't see above my desk. My teacher complained to the principal because when you write at your desk, your arm must be at a 90-degree angle. And mine was basically up here. I was like face on the page and all. So with this case study, the desk was very uncomfortable and she could hardly see in the front of the classroom because, her view was being blocked by those sitting in front and could not access her locker. And examples of inaccessibility in the classroom was where she couldn't see the microscope because the microscope's on the desk and you have to be taller than the microscope to look down in. So I would just like to ask you to just throw me like one or two, I know it's late in the afternoon, so I won't pester you too much, but maybe just one or two creative accommodations that we can make for Dee to include her in the classroom with all her various barriers that she experiences. Presentation. I like this case study because I'm going to show you three, because this one is focusing on more of physical barriers. So there's physical barriers, attitudinal barriers, and social barriers that I will focus on with the case studies. So I like this example of the physical barriers. So like I see Dennis is saying design an accessible, customized desk for Dee. That's great. They can use desks from the lower grades. I love that. That's what I did all my life, using grade 2 desks. No shame in that. Raised desk for Dee, that's great. Case study is relevant, important. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So Chantal, if you just press the arrows until I pop up my little suggestions. Yeah, place Dee in front of the classroom so that she doesn't get her view blocked, and a sturdy step stool is perfect. I'm sorry again, Chantal, just so that there's a bit of bullet points. You can just click them all. Thanks. Yeah, so that's perfect. Accessible furniture, lower stool, perfect. Thank you, everyone. So yeah, like I mentioned, these are pictures of me actually. My grade 2 desk in the matric exam looked very funny, but there's no shame. I got it done. And then there was also it's a very funny picture on top, but if you can't see it, it's a brick. They literally just used a brick for my feet to rest on. I know someone said, a sturdy step stool. That would have been nice. But if we didn't have that, my teacher wrapped a brick in foil and we just put that under my feet and it worked just fine, which is fine. Sibongile says providing a desk that is appropriate to the learners if it is possible. Ask for donations, for shorter table, a nice box decorated with waste. Yeah, great, thank you. That's perfect, thanks for that. Yeah, so that's just what I use, just little things here and there, a step stool for looking into the microscope, any type of footstool, any type of desk that I could find, just to make it a little bit easier. Thanks, Chantal. We could go to the next one. Sure, again. So this is another case study. I think this would be focusing on attitudinal barriers. So if Zia has a condition where his limbs lock in place and his mobility is affected, he has a big and bulky electric wheelchair, which you all know is a bit bigger than the manual ones. It's very bulky and chunky. And so he uses that to get around. He is often reprimanded for scuffing the hallways, damaging the door frames, and because he can't fit in too well into the hallways and to the doors. And he cannot fit in his desk properly. The classroom is very uncomfortable to get into. His classmates and school staff get very annoyed with him because he's also taking up a lot of space and damaging property. So this is quite an attitudinal barrier because it's such an exclusive treatment towards someone who is disabled, something that they can't prevent, and they are getting around in it. And yes, there would be some damage to hallways. My mom always goes on about my house being scuffed up everywhere. But yeah, there's just, if you don't have the attitudinal barriers, what can the disabled person do? Obviously, they are trying to prevent scuffing. No one does it intentionally, but that's what happens when you use a wheelchair, especially with an inaccessible environment. So if you guys could, again, if you don't mind, send just one or two suggestions for Zia and how we can accommodate that or break down those attitudinal barriers. Sorry, yeah, the presentation says altitudinal, but definitely a typo, attitudinal. So when the staff and peers have attitude towards that, so an attitudinal barrier is when they think badly about them, have negative thoughts or perception of them. You didn't get educated, exactly. It's about education and awareness. Yeah, door kick plates, teachers rotate from class to class. Zia allocated an accessible room, that's perfect. Adaptation of the school infrastructure, that's great. Yeah. So something as simple as just educational training, sensitivity training, awareness raising. Chantal, you can just click onto all my bullet points I've dropped down, please. Thanks. Yeah, so like when we look at the social model, like I said, I've grown up in a very medical model centered space where you are considered the problem. But in actual fact, it's the school, the society that should change to accommodate you. So I like that that we're looking at attitudinal barriers because a lot of exclusion begins with awareness and education. I just think a lot of people are just unfortunately ignorant and they just need some education on that. I don't think a lot of it's intentional. I think it's just a lot of unknown. So yeah, I'm looking at your comments. Thanks, guys. Need educated teachers, definitely. A lot of teachers, you think the only teachers that need to be educated on disability are those who are teaching special schools, but that's not the case because with disabled people being the biggest minority of the world, they are in mainstream spaces. So all people should be educated, especially teachers should be educated on how to accommodate. And if the teachers are educated, then the students automatically become aware and educated and willing to assist and etc. all of that. So it all does begin like Kathy always says about educated teachers, very important. Yeah, okay, shall we go to the next one, the last one? So case study 3 of Shah will look at more social barriers that's experienced by disabled students. So she has a condition that weakens her legs. She thus uses crutches to get around and a wheelchair for long distances. She has never been on an excursion as buses are always too inaccessible and the teachers refuse to take her. Again, just being scared of how to accommodate someone with a disability. So it's easier to say no than to ask how. So this person, she has never partaken in PE classes. The teacher does not know how to integrate her abilities into the set exercises in life orientation and PE. So she's always sidelined and just told to watch the class. This is also my experience. Unfortunately, not being integrated in PE, not being integrated in sports, not being integrated in excursions. I think my first excursion was when I was in grade 5 or 6, where my teacher's husband refused that I would be excluded. I think he has a disabled daughter as well. So it just shows when people are exposed and aware, they do want to help and they become more willing. So he then took it upon himself to ask the principal to take me to the aquarium in grade 5. So again, if I could ask you guys just 1 or 2 suggestions for how we can combat some social exclusion for sure. This is so important for me to shine a light on for social inclusion, because not only will they be socially included, yeah, of course they would be participating in class, but what that does to the students is even more important. It boosts their morale, it makes them create friends, create friendships and bonds with other students. They socially grow, they, what do they call it? Not the other intelligence, when emotional intelligence grows, the morale grows. Yeah, it's just so important for mental health, especially. We all know what exclusion does to anybody, let alone someone who is born isolated in a sense. So that's why I love this study. For me, for this student, I would just say to just make it known that once you engage with a student or their parents or both, you can come up with some simple accommodations. For me, it was easier for the teachers to say, no, we're not going to take her on because like it's too difficult for us. But if I just said, I just need a wheelchair and I can push myself, just get the wheelchair in the bus, I can do it myself. That's all I needed. But they thinking they must carry me on their back and they must feed me and they, like spoon, it just goes crazy. So I would say, Chantal, you can just drop all my little suggestions. Yeah, so like the chat says, use disability inclusive transport, very important. Easily obtainable as well. It sounds challenging for a lot of people. Maybe exactly, include parents. So they asked for my parents to come with. Not that my mom wanted to be included to make me feel like, oh, I'm the child with my mommy in class and on the excursions. But that could definitely be done if you require additional care that teachers cannot give. So that's definitely doable. Try different activities, exactly. So what you learn in disability studies is that you don't make a separate task for the disabled person to do, because that's very patronizing, that's very exclusionary in itself. Who wants to sit and you're just being given a ball when everybody's running laps or whatever, and it just seems patronizing. So try to come up with inclusive PE lessons for all to do. So there's so many great resources online. And also a suggestion is just use online resources, use Google, use YouTube. There's so many great instructions for inclusive physical education training and excursion tips as well. So great. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, let me go to Kofi's. I don't know if we're able to finish it, but let's see. Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
Perfect. Thanks, Kofi.
Good. Own house. I am in the living room and
So I'll just be skipping ahead.
as you know,
yeah.
we are in the week 7 and today is 11th. So That is how it takes us. We want to see intended learning outcomes. So by the end of our interaction, it is hoped, and I believe that you will understand and identify a learner who is physically disabled in the classroom. That is number one. And number two, you should be able to demonstrate how to support learners with physical learning. If you have a mobile phone, you pick it, using your laptop, you pick it. If you have a different device, then I want you to go to the Google. If you want to search something where
Sorry.
something,
I'm going to do some skippings.
keep them coming. Keep them coming. One thing you're gonna do, as just done, and I have some few recommendations. Materials, communication in the classroom, good relationship with learners and their parents. Very, very important. The relationship between the learner or you, the teacher, and the parent.
So what I'm skipping is that I really want you guys to hear the recommendations and the suggestions which he's given, just like Durea.
It's very, very important. Now let's move ahead and see.
Sorry. I want you to
how you can help us here, and you have touched all this.
Okay, great.
Remember, this short exercise we have done has a link to what Durea has presented. The first case number one. These are exactly what you need to do as a teacher. So I have projected this arrangement of classroom tables, chairs, pathways to the classroom and within the classroom. Classroom management, arrangement of teaching and learning materials, communication in the classroom, good relationship with learners and their parents. Very, very important. The relationship between the learner or you, the teacher, and the parent is very, 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 very important. Now let's move ahead and see. So you have demonstrated how you can help children with physical impairments or physical disabilities. Who are they? Who are these children? When we say a child with physical disability, who is this child? So here, learners with physical disabilities may have problems. You know, our first
okay, I'll skip ahead because he had covered this in the first video, which we saw. Okay, I think
they are just around me, so they are all parts of the show. Thank you. Now let's see a definition. That we actually don't have a stereotype or a definition that is widely accepted. But there is this organization called EuroCall Group 2009. And then we also have...
Sorry again, sorry for all the skippings, but I think this was the teaching strategies to promote, yeah. Okay, no, that's this breakout room. I think it's after that. Okay, yeah. Don't know why he used the word here. Let's see. Let's see. I thought he spoke more about this. Yeah, on that Word document.
I'll be in trouble. So somebody is already trying to share the screen. No.
We can't?
There's a place where you give a consolidation. Nope. So you can take your time, of course, and go through this video so that you get everything. I thought there was a space where he, yeah, where you give suggestions.
Can do one of them, have a chance to do each and every one of that. And as a teacher, you can express using eye contact and pointing towards the item. You can point with your finger, or for the CPs, they can use their eye pointing if they cannot talk. Yes, and then also sitting arrangement, put in front. You put those who are able to, who cannot see properly, you can put them at the front. And those who are easily distracted, you can also put them at the front so that other learners do not disturb them. And then the last one, you allow learners with disabilities to express themselves and also do activities. We should not do for them all the time. But whatever they might try to do, as long as the learner is trying to do something, he has participated. When you assess, you award a mark because the learner tried to touch an object in an activity. Yeah, I think I'm done.
Wonderful. Oh, great. Well done to room.
All right. I think I'm going to stop there so that we just have closing. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah. So we just have, because we have like 9 minutes left to go. Okay. But you get the gist of the presentation. It's around Kofi and Dureya really digging into the experiential part, which is very important because it's very easy for us to talk about theory. It's good to hear, how it's actually manifest in class and what is thinking around how inclusion should happen. And you kept hearing about engagement with family. You kept hearing about the attitudinal aspects. Kept hearing about speaking with the students and the family, getting their views on how things should be done, and then of course the creativity. Yeah. So sorry, it was a bit chop and change in this aspect, because the lecture was very, very long. So we have just like less than 8 minutes to go. Anybody wants to just share highlights or what picked up? Okay, I see Alice says, I think people with disabilities can describe. Oh, that's that question. We won't go into it now. We won't go into that question now because it's a whole other debate. You can bring it in your last reflections. Okay, yeah, add that. So anybody wants to give any final thoughts or anything major that jumped out? I know there were many things, but is there any one which came to you that you feel strongly to share in class? If not, let me know. I can just ask a question to frame it. Do you agree with no? In what ways do you agree with okay, Onati got it. In what ways do you agree with Dureya where she said holistic inclusion equals social inclusion? In what ways do you agree with Dureya when she said holistic inclusion is equivalent to social inclusion? Anybody wants to comment on that? Or you can also talk about your, okay, Cedric, yeah, go ahead.
I'm going back to Unati's point about the decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm in between. It depends on the circumstances for me.
Okay.
I agree with the holistic inclusion equals social inclusion, but not. Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example now. I understand when she refers to the physical exercise.
Yes.
Yeah, they can maybe make an accommodation. Not start earlier, but factor in the time for her to participate in that half an hour. Make it part of the class exercise to include her.
Okay.
But when it comes to activities outside of the school, it might be a bit difficult. But when it comes to the classroom itself, the exercise for the students, for the classmates, the peers, then they should include a, within the class activity, and just maybe make the activity a bit shorter, but include the time that it will take for her to participate and to get to the field, and even make provision for her to get to the field.
Okay. Yes, you touched upon some of the things I wanted to mention, but I wanted to ask you a further question. How relevant and important was having friends, being able to do whatever you do with friends, being part of a club for you when you were at school? How important was that to the success for you to be able to successfully go through school for you?
Yes, no, I definitely agree with her on that point. It's about like they I think in this class and also the previous lectures, they talk about the psychosocial and the emotional. So it definitely has an impact on that.
Okay, so that's what she's telling you guys, that without that aspect, you cannot really say your school or university is inclusive, because that is part of the human. And remember, at university, you're supposed to usually a learner or student supposed to drive their own learning. So there's a big emphasis on agency. And what Doria is saying is that agency is tightly linked to social inclusion. Because what really promotes and boosts your confidence, talk about boosting your confidence, being able to know your rights and ask for that right. All those things come from social inclusion in schools and, while you are at university. So when you're talking about holistic inclusion, you cannot leave out social inclusion. It's not only about classroom. It's not only about the curriculum. It's much more than that. And I'm stressing this because it is when you now start talking about internalized oppression usually happens because of lack of attention to social inclusion, not having dignity, not having your voices heard, not considering, how things impact on your confidence, on your self, efficacy. All these things, very, very important. And like I told you, a student with disability told me, I feel like I'm always the student with a problem. That sentence impacts on confidence. So that means you pointing out that, sorry, this does not actually accommodate, I have a challenge in this. You don't even feel the need to even talk about it anymore. That impacts on a student's confidence. When a student with physical, any student with disability, impacts on confidence. And what do? A student ends up just being silent. Just say, okay, let's just see, what will happen and the rest of it. So just have that empathetic view whereby you put yourself in the shoes, and it happens on multiple levels. So I do testing of websites or for visual impairment. So using a screen reader, I know what it is when, even just going to read a document, telling web developers, no, you need to implement this, no, you need to implement that. I myself, who does not have a disability, starts feeling that, I'm actually a problem individual, because I always have to point to the issues. Say, no, the user cannot actually click on this button because the screen reader does not even read what the name of the button, and those kind of things. So just to pay attention to how those non-physical aspects impact on the confidence, agency of learners with disabilities, and how that then can contribute to internalized oppression. Okay. All right. Any last thoughts? 1 minute to go. You see, I'm actually trying very good to not keep you people, and I think I'm doing a good job at that, because last year, that was one of the complaints from the past students, because last year we went over time a lot. So I said, let me try and improve this year that we don't go over time. Because I know, you need to be able to go rest a little bit so I can get into, the other aspects of your deadlines that you have for the course. Any other last thoughts? Quick last thoughts? Anybody wants to share? Ikelebuhile says boosting confidence is important. Yes. It's more important than we think. It's more important than we think. That's what I will tell you. So engage with that more and see what comes out. I always thought that I am a burden to teachers. Exactly. I always thought that I was a burden to teachers and learners. Yeah. All right, people, I don't want to keep you more than this time. Okay. So, like I said, two things for you for Thursday. Two things that I'm expecting you from Thursday is questions you are going to ask Kofi. Okay. So, and you've been doing very well, in that aspect. So come with questions you're going to ask Kofi. The second thing you need to focus on also is questions around the exam. Okay. So take your time to go through the exam, and then the exam shouldn't be a surprise to you if you've gone through it. You will see it shouldn't be a surprise. These are things we've been dealing with. Okay. So those are the two things for Thursday session. Okay. So that when you ask those questions or whatever, because I'll go through the exam, we ask those questions and whatever. If you now have further questions for the next week, you can then email Onati and myself so that we can respond to you as you develop your response to the exam. All right. So thanks everyone. And we will see you on Thursday. Sorry, it's a bit rushed today. Have a good evening then.
Thank you, Dr. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Thank you. Good night.
Oh, Subinello, do
Bye.
you have a question? Or it was okay. I thought maybe you were saying goodbye. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye.